creating a new type of gaming experience. That's our Techstination. Joining us from ORE Systems, ORE, are co-founders, CTO Nick Donarski, COO Shawn Piatz, and CEO Lucas Hamrick. Thank you all for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Well, this is a software company looking, I guess, to streamline game development and do some other really unique things here. I don't know which one of you wants to go first, but give us the overview.
So as you said, sir, we're a tech company in the gaming space, and our project is called With Them Frontlines. And really what this game is about is trying to create conversations around veteran mental health. So as we conceived of this thing, it's pretty interesting the way it rolled out. What we really want to do here is to build, a first-person shooter game that's engaging and fun to play for our military audience. Anybody can play the game, but we're sticking to kind of what we know on this one. As the game rolls out, we'll build out, the first-person shooter aspect of it, and then to the campaign modes. And the thing we're doing that's different from other people is we're using real characters and real situations in our campaign mode. And from there, as we progress over our milestones over the next 3 to 5 years, our intention is to put into it medical therapeutics. We have some custom algorithms and wearables that we're integrating inside of the game, opt-in only, that will create a data set for researchers to understand what the triggers are for PTSD and some of the other things that veterans suffer from over time. Our hope there is that we build a data set that actually finds therapeutics to help people while they play. So ultimately, this game will be a therapeutic where while you're playing a fun game, you're actually receiving therapy at the same time. Well, in short.
and you have some medical advisors on the team, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, tell us more, again, whichever one of you wants to jump in here, about how you gathered the stories, the actual experiences that you're going to be putting into the game.
This is the easy part. This is Shawn and I engaging in our network of former associates from our military experiences and really talking to them about some of the challenges that they deal with on a mental wellness horizon. And that allows us to kind of also talk about how they unpack some of their traumas and get to know some of their experiences that they've dealt with as well, and try and highlight some of those successes as a part of a layered approach to helping in the veteran mental health space. In addition to talking to them about their overcoming adversities, we also talk to them about including their story in the game so that the audience can play a perspective of the story that they shared and potentially gain some additional insights into some of the challenges that those service members went through in their time in combat.
Ideally, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Sure.
I'll just add to that a little bit. So ideally, what we kind of want here is in the campaign mode to be a playable documentary. We want to share their stories, like Lucas said, from their perspective. And so you're going to get a little bit of history. You're going to get a lot of American hero, and you're going to get the ability to go and play, at least from their perspective, that part of their life. One isolated event. And some of what's been great for me about this thing is really reconnecting with the guys I haven't talked to. I think you know that about the military, sir, being a veteran yourself. You cannot talk to somebody for many years, and nowadays it's one text or phone call, and it appears that you've never lost contact at all. So that's been really good for me, honestly, after being retired now for 5 years, to reconnect all those guys, really just to see how they're doing, to see the success that they've had, and like Lucas said, how they've overcome their own challenges of PTSD or anxiety or whatever the things that plague them are.
Nick, as CTO, how do you incorporate wearables into this, and tell us how that is going to be beneficial?
Yeah, the first part was to look at something that the military members are used to using. We didn't want to recreate the wheel. We didn't want to do, make something that was more difficult than it had to be, right? We didn't want to, government engineer it, if you will. So basically, we looked at what tools were out there that the military members were using. So Fitbit was one of the tools that DoD has already approved. They've gone through the process of getting cleared to have that data. So we looked at integrating with Fitbit's technology and their wearable devices to actually create metrics that correlate to game events. So when somebody is actually going through the experience or going through the campaign, they're able to actually see how their body reacts to the events that they're going through. And that's something that there's nothing out there today, especially when you're talking about PTSD, the first person shooters, the big Call of Duties, the Battlefields, things like that. They're all about the entertainment value, but taking it a step further and looking at how the body reacts and what those triggers are from technical sensors, you can actually get insight to how somebody's blood pressure is, what their O2 sensor is, what their heart rate is, just those cursory things that we keep every day on our smartwatch or on our phones, and correlate that to that event. Researchers and mental health professionals and our doctors as well are able to take a look at those data metrics and see how that person reacts, and you can create track data points over time to start to see how that plays through different types of experiences, different types of engagements, whatever that might be inside of the game, to help get insight into what's really going on, in the inner psyche.
And you said that this is opt-in, but how could that data be used to be helpful to a veteran who might be struggling?
Yeah, I mean, the core element of what we really stand for isn't just, you're going to put somebody into that state of, you're going to put them into a triggered event. Working with our partners, working with the veterans charities, working directly with the outreach groups, working directly with that support network that we also are building with them. That's where that event, right, allows that person to take part and actually, find assistance, whether that's reaching out to the community, whether that's reconnecting with the tribe just to have somebody to actually talk to, or whether that's actually looking further to, seeing what is out there. That's why it's important to not only have just the element of the game, but it's also important to have the support network. So I know Shawn and Lucas, they're both directly involved with veterans charities. And then we work with and are open to working with every veteran charity out there. We're not set on helping one. We're agnostic to making sure that we're doing right by the actual people that we're trying to help,
Lucas, I understand you're taking this to Indiegogo.
We'll currently just closed up the Indiegogo opportunity. You can still go to the Indiegogo at with them front lines. We'll take you to the historical data, and you can review some of the project details there. I'd like to kind of piggyback on top of what Nick was just referring to. Really want to come at this the mental wellness opportunity in layers. We'll start with just the individual being able to measure their own information over the course of time through certain events that aren't as quite as escalated as they were in previous instances. We also can we're coming to the ability to share those metrics with your provider as a part of the developmental cycle too, so the provider can use those metrics to facilitate the conversation a little bit more thoroughly. In addition, we're working with Geek Therapeutics, Dr. Anthony Bean and his team, trying to figure out the most effective ways to use this information to tweak the therapeutics as what Shawn was referring to in his eloquent description of the project so far.
Is this something the VA could or should be interested in?
We're definitely trying to establish connectivity. There's a few governmental programs. I'm sure your time in the military afford you ample opportunities to know how easily it is to connect to government programs sometimes. But we're taking advantage of the small business innovation research opportunities, the governmental grants and NIH funding through SIBR submissions to try and establish some type of linkage with the government. So that, I mean, ultimately they're the arbiter in the room. They are the original stakeholder for helping the veterans. So it would be ideal for them to be a part of our process as well.
Explain to people in the audience, and maybe the same thing would have to be explained to family members and friends, how or why more or less reliving experiences through a game is beneficial. People might assume that, hey, this is something you want to forget about.
Yeah, I'll take that one if you don't mind. It's immersion. It's immersion therapy, and there's been several psychological studies out there by some pretty big name folks that indicate that immersion therapy is actually a good thing. For me personally, it's where I'm comfortable. So after so many years of this type of thing, I'm less comfortable in the real world than I am in the places that most people would consider dangerous. It sounds odd to say that, but it is a comfort zone, and there's now hundreds of thousands of veterans over 25, almost 30 years of constant, conflict around the world who have some type of trauma. And I have to be honest with you, trauma is not, exclusive to the military. It's the same mental dynamics that work for car wreck victims or people who see horrible acts or experience horrible things in their lives. And so part of that therapy is the immersion into it. There's some really innovative things going on now, especially for, traumatic brain injury patients and PTSD folks, of which I'm one, that are very promising, as in, light, sound, haptic therapy, all of which we can incorporate into, future releases of the game. And so the simple answer, my long answer to your very short question is it's our comfort zone. And when we find other people inside of that comfort zone that we can speak to, now it becomes group therapeutic along with immersion therapy. The military, I'm sure you all know, has a dark sense of humor that, if shared with a lot of people on the outside, probably scares them. But for us, again, that's what we're comfortable with.
Lucas, you want to add to that?
Yeah, in addition, as a part of some of my exposure to therapeutics and therapies, I've done prolonged exposure therapy, reliving the same experience over an 8-week period under the guidance of some medical professionals, and it was beneficial to keep expanding on the same thought process, because you defrag your hard drive, so to speak. As you're doing this, so you consolidate that data. So when I first started going through those experiences in the prolonged exposure therapy, it took me about 15 minutes to get through talking through the event with my provider. Over the course of time, I was recording these sessions as well. But over the course of time, in the 8th week, by the time I stopped recording, it was 49 minutes of detail that used to not be a part of that story. So sometimes those prolonged exposures can be beneficial with proper medical care. This is not something that's oriented towards solving your own problems in that capacity, but it does lend some of those same opportunities to routine engagements in the same process.
How will the gameplay be different than the Call of Duty stuff, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest part is going to be the fact that it's real guys. I mean, it's these guys right here are in the game and playable characters. It's the depth of being able to learn about and walk in somebody else's footsteps. None of the games out there do that. They all are, based on stories or based on somebody. They're not actually a real character. This brings the military vets to life, and that's something that you can't get anywhere else. The other part is you get that you get that that tribe, that camaraderie feeling back to it, because now you also get the ability to have military branch versus military branch, and friendly combat, and
Friendly company.
and a lot of other things that you can't really kind of get out of the Call of Duties or the big names. We don't expect that every person is going to drop Call of Duty or Battlefield and come over, but we do see that there's enough space for more out there, right? The big three, Call of Duty, Battlefield, and I mean, that's basically it. Call of Duty,
Apex Legends.
yeah, Apex Legends, and then you get to some of the other ones down there too. But they're all fantasy.
Fantasy.
Yeah, there you go. And they don't have the foundation. This is, you get to learn about something. You get the experience of actually getting to know somebody that was a service member or served at one point in time. It's just a cool experience, man. It's something that you can't get anywhere else.
Do you want players of these games to say, to look at this and say, this is different? I mean, this is you're giving them a taste of what it was really like, not the fiction. Is that part of what you're doing here?
It is. I mean, it's the truth in the story, right? It's, this whole project actually got started at at about 1:00 in the morning in Vegas at CES a couple of years ago. And Shawn was telling me about how he wanted to collect stories from the guys that he served with, because those stories were starting to fade out into history, right? You had a lot of the documentation and documentaries of World War II and then Vietnam, and then there was a break. There was a kind of a lack of documentation, movies, things like that was really allowing people to tell their stories. You see more of it now in some of the smaller documentaries, things like on Amazon Prime, on Netflix, that are starting to come up more. This is just another medium for being able to express those same types of things in another art form as well. So not only is it different, and we want people to see something that's different, but it's also giving the members another art form that's really just starting to take form for something that they can express themselves in. So I think that it's also early in the realization that you can be expressive through video games like that.
So this started in Vegas. It's not going to stay in Vegas. But, so you were all in Las Vegas at CES. Is that how this happened?
Yeah.
Yes.
And we're a geographically dispersed work team, so to speak. And so we're spread all over the States. And, on the rare occasion that we get together, man, the good ideas flow. Sometimes we have to stifle it a little, but to add to what Nick said, I think this is a natural evolution, right? Stories in the past have been told in print, and then it moved to the video generation. And I think now it's time to move from the I see it on YouTube to the interactive generation. And that's kind of what we're aiming for here. So it is a natural evolution. And really what we're trying to bring is that personal level engagement. A lot of people fall in love with the characters that they play who are fanciful characters. We want you to fall in love with America's real heroes. We want to tell their stories. If somebody knows, man, you see a press release, right? Especially in the special operations community, you might see a press release where somebody's getting a metal pin in their chest, but you don't have any idea other than the citation that they read what they went through. How does that happen? We want to tell you how it happened. That's what we want to do. And some of it is, still classified. Like, many of our Vietnam era heroes like SOG, a Special Operations Group in Vietnam. A lot of those stories weren't declassified until recently, and so we want to take that kind of post-Vietnam era forward. We want to record in the annals of history, if you will, the stories of these guys, and we want you to be able to play with them. And that's kind of why we chose the title for the game, With Them Front Lines, to allow you to really be there, experience what they experienced, and take away from that the ability for you to go tell your story. And so what we think is, this is one of those games that's a long ball hitter. You will have constant feeds, of people who want to come, and we welcome all people. Men, women, so any service member who has a story that they want to tell that's a playable in the game, we want you to come and tell us your story and share it with us so that we can share it with everybody else.
So the platforms that you'll be available on, and when, give us the run through of how people can play.
Yeah, so we're going to be launching on Windows, PC. And then we're in line for Xbox, so that's the big one. So console and PC, and then we'll actually have our pre-alpha that'll be launching here in about 30 days. So you'll be able to get some early action. You'll be able to actually try it out. Some of the early maps and stuff like that. That'll be out here in about 30 days.
For more information, where do people go?
Withthem.vet, withthem.co. It's got all of the gaming information that you need. Once the pre-alpha comes out that Nick's talking about, you can coordinate gameplay with other interested parties, and try and start to build the community around the game, which we think will be a part of the solution for the mental wellness, is connecting veterans with other veterans through gameplay. So the VA says there's about 4.5 million people that are diagnosed with post-traumatic stress that are between the ages of 23 and 52. We want the meaty majority of that population is in gaming space. So we think this game should resonate with a really specific audience who we're trying to help.
Well, congratulations on what you're doing there. It really sounds very worthwhile. The site again is withthem.vet. Nick, Shawn, and Lucas, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thanks for having us,
sir.
Fred.